Today is August 2nd, 2019. I'm Emily Kelly, and I'm interviewing Doug Scott at the Newkirk Public Library, Newkirk, Oklahoma. I'm a member of the Newkirk 4-H Go-Getters, and this is for the Oklahoma Military Hall of Fame project. So, what motivated you to join the military?
Well, the main reason, my father was in the First World War. He was in the Army, served in France. My oldest brother was in the Army. He served in the South Pacific. Him being in the Army, he went to radio school in Tampa, Florida, and they sent him and one other guy to California and put them in the Marines. They were two Army guys in the Marines, and the outfit they were in. They were in 3 major invasions, and Tarawa was one of the worst. And so he served for 3 years and 6 months without us ever seeing him until he got back home. My other brother is 4 years older than me. He served during the Korean War. And myself, I decided we're Cherokee people. We're not full-blood. My dad was a half-breed. And the Cherokees have a warrior society. And to complete our warrior society and our family, I felt a responsibility for me to go in the service. Tried to get in the Marine Corps. I wanted to get into combat engineers, and came over here to Ponca City to the post office downtown. That's where they used to end up people. And talked to the Marine recruiter, told him what I was wanting to get in there, and he said, that's a closed rank. We can't take any more in combat engineer. And he said, I can sign you up for just a regular Marine. And I said, no, I don't want to be just a rifle bearer. Anyway, he said, I tell you, I'm not supposed to tell you this, but you can go on down the hall and meet with the Navy. They have a group called Seabees. And they do the same thing as Marine combat engineers. Only they're under the Navy. So I go down there and I talk to those people. And they said, you'll take a chance, we can sign you up. It's an 8-year obligation, 4 years active and 4 years reserve. And when you get to boot camp, and after you finish boot camp in California, you tell them what you would like to get into. And it's going to be a very slim chance you get the Seabees. And I said, well, sign me up anyway. So that's the reason I wanted to get into the service, was to fulfill an obligation to my family, my brothers, and my mom and dad. I felt like it was my responsibility. So went through boot camp out there in San Diego, and they just opened up some new barracks out there. It was really nice. It was kind of a rough boot camp, more than what I was used to. And it taught us a lot of discipline. I felt like it was very good for me. I needed that. And when we graduated boot camp, they put our orders up on the bulletin board. And my order said I was to report to Fort Hueneme, California, to go to builder school, but I was in the Seabees and the MCB BEU. So God answered a prayer. And basically, the reason I was in there also was I was going to be drafted anyway. And my mom got my draft notice, sent it to me when I was in boot camp, and I gave it to my company commander, and he tore it up and said, we got you already. So anyway, I would have had to go. And that's the reason. Another reason also is it was hard to get a good job about that time. And that's a good thing, join the military, and they ain't going to fire you if you do your job. That's it.
Tell me a little bit about your time in basic training.
We ran a lot. I didn't know we could run that far, that fast, in that distance. Otherwise, it was really interesting. I'd never been around the ocean before in my life. And we went through some drills on makeup, ship out in the middle of blacktop marching field. They'd set up a small ship out there, and we learned a lot of things about ship life. But the basic thing I thought was really good was the discipline part. We had to do what they told us to do, and learn to take orders and to carry them out. And I needed that. So physically, yeah, it was a challenge, but I didn't know what was yet to come after I got out of that boot camp, and I'll explain that later.
What was your primary job after training?
After training, they sent us to builder school, which I showed you that picture. And after we went through builder school in Fort Hueneme, California, which is out there close to Ventura, Oxnard, Camarillo, it's a really nice place. We graduated after 11 weeks, and out of the clear blue sky, they gave me orders to go all the way across the United States to Davisville, Rhode Island, to join MCBBU, which is Mobile Construction Battalion Base Unit, is a standby, and we would be assigned later to individual battalions. And on that order was that I had the responsibility to get 6 other men that was going to go out there, and I had to be in charge. I don't know why they did that. I guess because I had a high school education and some of them didn't. I don't know what else. But anyway, we got out there to Davisville, Rhode Island, beautiful place. All that East Coast, that was pretty. Out there by Narragansett Bay. And we was out there 5 days, and I had to take the same 6 men and march down to MCB-4, which was stationed there on the base at that time, and we joined MCB-4 battalion. And I went into B Company. All 7 of us went into B Company. And from there, the battalion just got back from St. John's, Newfoundland. And we didn't know where they were going to go, but we had ended up taking 5 weeks of extreme Marine combat training. Seabees during World War II and during the Korean War, they killed so many of them because they didn't have any training. So they changed all that when Eisenhower got to be president. And we had to end up, before we got out of our 4 years of active duty, we had to have 16 weeks of advanced infantry training with the Marine Corps, which is really good, because then you knew how to more or less defend yourself and what weapons to use, and it kind of got hairy sometimes, but it was good that we had that training.
Were you deployed?
Well, on the first time, this was during the time of the 50s when they were starting to develop their rocketry in the United States, and they had already had some ICBM missiles to carry warheads anywhere in the world, but they were wanting to go a little bit past that, where they could actually put rockets into orbit. Those ICBMs, they're suborbital. They don't fly quite as high. So they developed this program in Cape Canaveral. They shoot them rockets downrange, which would be from Cape Canaveral. It'd be traveling south and east for about 500. About, I guess it's 3,000 miles to Ascension Island down there. And so they sent us to Eleuthera in Bahamas, my whole battalion. And that was like paradise. It's like Nassau. It's only 66 miles from Nassau. And we went on that island owned by the British. And we had the Brits lease us some land to build a base. We went in there and cut a hilltop completely off and built a complete Navy base in 9 months. That's hard to believe, but that's some of these pictures. And it was The crew that I was working on a terminal building which held all the tech stuff, so when they fired a rocket out Cape Canaveral, they could keep the trajectory in control all the way down. Our sister battalion, which was MCB-7, they went from 533 men to 1,066 men, so they built two bases, one on Grand Turks and one on another island on down south. And so I felt really good about that, because after I got out of service, we seen all this rocket stuff, you know, and all that. And I could always say to my sons after they were born and got up a ways, your daddy helped build that stuff. It makes me feel good, you know. But things change. And we come back to the States. We took our Marine combat training and got ready to be deployed again. This time we went to North Africa, and that changed the whole thing. It's just a little bit different. And the base we got on over there was in Morocco, right outside the town of Kenitra. And we were on good terms with Morocco. And Mohammed bin Yusuf was king at that time, and he was really a fine gentleman. We did have few problems over there. Some of the sheiks that thought they still were in charge, you know. And we were on standby over there. We were getting ready. Eisenhower was president, and he was going to invade Lebanon, and we were going to be on the second wave to go in. And they were going to fly us from Fort Laudi, the base there, Kenitra, to Tripoli in Libya, the Seabees, and we'd go aboard these LCVPs and landing craft LSMs. The first A company would go in and level the beach, sand beach outside of Beirut, and we were going to go in there and we were going to lay steel plates on the beach so the Marines could land their Corsairs on the beach. And we were on standby to go in. So while we were on standby, the admiral of the base says, "Well, you Seabees are here." He's talking to our commanding officer. "Would you care to start some projects for us?" And our commanding officer said, "Yes, we'd like to put our people to work until whatever is going to happen." And we were kind of glad about that. We didn't really want to go on that invasion. You know, nobody does. So our commanding officer said, "Well, what do you need most?" And that guy told us, says, "We need a Catholic chapel beside the Protestant chapel. We got a Protestant chapel, but on the base we don't have a Catholic chapel." I said, "Can you build one?" And our commanding officer said, "We'll start these projects, but we may be called out to go anytime." So that's the picture you had of that. We built that Catholic chapel. We started a swimming pool and got it almost finished. We built a bowling alley. The things we were building is for the benefit of the men and women that were stationed there, because they didn't have all this, and they wanted it because some of them were assigned there for 2 years. So we felt really good about that. And then March came. We got over there in January. March came, and we seen all these planes coming in, Marine aircraft, like that picture there. And then we saw all these Marines marching down the street where we were, and we knew something was coming off. And so we had to fall in formation, and they told us to pack up or if we're going into action. And then they told us what we were going to do. And so we all gathered, and here's the strange thing. We were all out there on the drill field, waiting to be loaded on the airplanes to fly to Libya. And all of a sudden, here was this man selling insurance. And he was coming around selling everybody insurance policy. And at that time, we didn't have government insurance. There was a period of time that you weren't covered. So for $3, you could buy a $10,000 policy. Later on, it would cost you $60, but if you had $3, you could sign up right there. I did sign up. A lot of people did. It made us feel kind of strange, buying life insurance and going into a place. Just different. Well, we got all ready and we got up there. They called it off because the 1st Marine out of the 2nd Marines, which we were attached, they went in there and everybody was laying out on the beach in their bikinis and drinking pop and beer and enjoying life. And so Eisenhower was a different kind of president. He was a general, and he knew about warfare. And they, which was the Iranians coming in to Lebanon to take it over. Basically, the Iranians are always doing something, you know, like they are now. And Eisenhower meant business. And they knew that he would clean their plow, so to speak. And so they pulled their troops. And we didn't have to make the final landing. After we come back to the States, Marine combat training. That's always was there when we come back. And then our next deployment was Puerto Rico, which is not bad. Went to Puerto Rico and built some stuff in Puerto Rico. Come back to the States, took more Marine combat training. And this, we went down to Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. And that was some tough stuff. The Marines are a tough group. And they are our brothers in the service. We felt really close to them because we were always with them. And went through that training, and it was real tough. And we kind of decided in our own ideas of what we were going to do next. We must be ready to go to somewhere where it was kind of tough. So they said, if you got any leave, take it. You can go for 4 days. That's after we got back from Camp Lejeune. I didn't go on leave because I lived too far away in Oklahoma to fly from Davisville. And when everybody got back, well, then they told us we're going to Cuba. It was getting hotter than pistol down there. Guantanamo Bay. Of all places on this earth, there's one place they need to get rid of. Anyway, we went down there, and there was 533 men in our battalion, and 212 Marines went with us. And when we landed in Cuba, the Cuban newspapers said that 12,000 Marines and servicemen had just landed in Cuba. And that was only, that would have been what, 733 men. But anyway, you know, things get in the press and it goes expanded. But it was not a good time to be down there. There's some bad things.